Hobbs. So sit back, relax, take your black pill, and enjoy the show.
Honk, 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 person, honk hits. It is once again time for the Lieutenant Hobbs. He's been here in Well,
We're
Ben.
we're in the world where your microphone is whack too.
Oh,
Um,
lovely.
maybe it just needs adjusted.
Mine or yours?
Yours,
How's that?
that is much better.
Okay, I think it was in my beard and it might have been like rubbing.
The beard has reached the level where it's getting into the microphone now. Outstanding.
Yeah, you can't really tell. It still looks like I just super glued a handful of pubes to my face, but you know, one of these days I'll be able to grow a beard like a real man.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. You'll notice I found the intro video finally.
Yes.
So we've got that back. Last week I said I was going to be trying some Alex Jones stuff. It's showing up. It got delayed. It's showing up tomorrow. So I'll have a report on that when that shows up. Let's go ahead and just plug it at the top here too.
Yeah, might as well. I did. I put it up in the link. If you're getting here through Twitter, you can find it at the bottom of the post that I put up. You can go get our merch at roads2liberty.com, or you can get our affiliate link to the Alex Jones store at thealexjonesstore.com/R2L. That's our affiliate link. 10% of what you order there gets kicked back to us, and if we make enough, maybe we'll do something fun with it, like buy a piece of gear.
Some people have ordered, so we appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've ordered something. Ben's ordered something. A guy in another group chat that I'm in has ordered something, and I think a couple other people have too. So we'll keep that going, and hopefully make a little bit on there. There was one guy, Alex was talking on his show like last month. Some guy made like $30,000 in a month.
Good.
Because he's just on Twitter like spamming it, and I'm like, what the hell, man? I'm pretty sure it's the same guy that Alex retweets, so I'm just like, when can I get Senpai to
Yeah, right. Well, they're sold out of stuff a lot on there, so it's obvious they're moving it.
Yeah.
But I'll give you an honest opinion when it shows up for next week's show, whether I notice anything or it's all just a bunch of Alex Jones goofiness. But
we'll see. I'm also going to order some more. I know that's kind of counterproductive of me ordering something and expecting 10% back, but economics are a joke these days, which is an excellent segue into the first topic of the night, which is
tariffs.
Tariffs and the economy. So why don't you lead us off and start, because man, I've been listening to podcasts and clips and explanations on this, and the consensus is all over the place.
Yeah, and I noticed something today. I was talking, and the gold prices are also down. Bitcoin is down. The Chinese yuan, the dollar's up against the yuan. It's up against the ruble. Euro, we're about the same spot. So it's just really weird. Everybody's saying the market's crashing, and some people say, like you said, it's all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those things that's never been done. We're just going to see how it shakes out. Everybody keeps bringing up the Smoot-Hawley. Oh, this is Smoot-Hawley all over again. The world economy in 17 was Smoot-Hawley, or 1917, 1920s, is much different now than it was then.
Right. In addition to it being different from then, we've moved on past that era and into what's called the Bretton Woods era.
Mm-hmm.
And then during that era, we moved from commodities or precious metal-backed currencies into unbacked currencies and fractional reserve banking, and into the petrodollar, in which the United States dollar, to maintain world currency status, reserve currency status, is the only currency that you are allowed to trade oil in. There are some ways around that. Some of these Gulf states use like the euro. Russia insists on like a basket commodity in their version of the SWIFT system, the BRIC system. But for the most part, the dollar is tied to the price of oil. And during this time, the United States, well, okay, so backpedaling to the end of the Second World War, um, there was an unprecedented level of prosperity in the United States. And during that, it would seem almost counterintuitive to pretty much any modern day economist or especially any libertarian economist, to where the United States' progressive tax system in the 1950s and into the 60s was as high as
Mhm.
96%.
Yeah.
And a lot of like socialists and communists will point to that and be like, how is it that the United States was so prosperous and we also had such a high level of taxation? And the fact is that in the 1950s, there was nowhere else to go. We were the only game in town. And at that time, you could charge that level of taxes on earners because Europe was a smoking
Yeah.
battlefield. Canada was and still is to this day largely a resource extraction economy. They're not an industrial economy like we were at the time. Same thing goes with Mexico. They were largely agricultural.
China.
Russia was in shambles.
China was just eyeballing an industrial revolution at that point. What are you going to invest there?
Right, but at that time they were not industrialized yet. They were going through their communist revolution after we left Chiang Kai-shek and the Chinese Republicans out to dry. Their great leap forward resulted in a massive amount of people starving to death, and their industry really did not get kickstarted until they were allowed in the 80s to kind of join the industrialized world. So China was a non-starter. Japan was radioactive. Africa is Africa, and it will always be Africa. So it
I
was
think
like,
Africa is in exactly the same spot they were.
and always has been. So yeah, it's like when you're talking about industrialists wanting to ply their trade, what other choice did they have but to be here in the United States in spite of the 96% taxes? Well, that world no longer exists anymore, and through a managed decline, some might say, of offshoring our manufacturing to places like China, who have gotten up to speed, offshoring a lot of technological industries to places like Japan and Taiwan, who have been very competitive in those certain industries. Offshoring manufacturing of large scale consumer goods to places like Mexico, and Europe getting back on its feet and being competitive, especially things like its automotive industry. Well, those tax rates would never work in the United States anymore. On top of that, there seems to have been a type of post war attitude that the government of the United States had towards the rest of the world, that especially after the Cold War ended too, that as the United States was this massive industrial and social juggernaut that was basically taking over the world, that it was somehow a burden that we had to carry to bring the others up to our standards. And so not only were we getting it from the offshoring of our manufacturing to these other countries with more lax environmental and labor laws, but those countries were also hitting our goods that we were still manufacturing in this country with tariffs. So we were getting hit from both sides on this. And at this point right now, the old way of doing things is no longer sustainable,
Mhm.
because we are getting hit with tariffs from the other countries on the few goods that we still make in this country, and we are running trade deficits with those countries. It wouldn't be bad if it was just one of the two, but I think the United States runs a trade deficit with just about every country on earth, and the ones that we don't run trade deficits with don't really have the economic power for it to actually matter. And the fact that the United States is still doing as good as we're doing under those circumstances is a testament to just what a powerhouse the economy of this country is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And I haven't. Have you seen what Trump's goal? I mean, how long has he said he wants to leave these tariffs on? Have you seen any hinting to that, or?
So the tariffs are very interesting because these are, in a way, they're non-punitive tariffs.
Mhm.
He keeps saying that they are reciprocal tariffs. However, when you look at the numbers and the percentages that the tariffs that he's levying are on, they're not entirely reciprocal in a one-for-one exchange, because they also take into account things like currency manipulation and trade deficit. For example, like this one is making Ben Shapiro blow a fucking gasket in his brain. Trump was negotiating with Israel. Israel had like a across the board 10% tariff on everything that was coming from the United States. They said that they would reduce that tariff down to zero. Trump then turns around and slaps everything from Israel with a 17% tariff. And it's causing people, oh, what happened to reciprocal tariffs, bro? I thought you weren't going to get punitive on people, bro. And then it's like, he's not, when you factor in things like currency manipulations and the trade deficit. And I saw there was he had the little chart that he was holding up of like the country and the amount of tariffs that they used to have on us and the amount that they
Mhm.
will have in the future and the amount that we're putting on them. And a lot of people were pointing to that, and they're like, oh, there's nothing special to this. There's nothing complex about this. He's just using a simple Excel spreadsheet calculation to come up with these numbers. And it's like, yeah, it really is that simple.
Well, yeah, I saw people were saying, I fed these same numbers into AI and it spit out the same chart that Trump's using. It's like, okay, so
Yeah. Yeah, people pretend that these things have to be complex. They don't. It really is just a simple matter of tariff the amount that the trade deficit is to bring everything in. Because right now we're living in a a system called free trade, which
Mhm.
it really isn't. Like
Yeah,
America's just getting fleeced by
yeah.
everybody. But free trade was supposed to be like the way forward, to the equitable way that nations would trade with one another, and it'll make wars impossible. And well, that was a fucking lie. So free trade is smokescreen. And then the people talk about fair trade, and nothing is ever fair. What I think that they're trying to move towards now is balanced trade. There will be certain commodities, goods, entertainment products, whatever it is, that one place will make in more abundance than another place, and you even out those trade deficits via appropriate tariffs.
Well, and I don't think people understand how paycheck to paycheck your average American is. They're like, "Oh, this is going to affect your everyday shopper." It's like bullshit. I mean, most people are buying groceries, some clothes, and maybe some video to play. It's not like your average blue collar guys out there buying electronics every day of the week. It's
Yeah.
not going to be as punitive as they think.
Right. So I've listened to, like I said, a lot of clips and podcasts on it, and the people who are for the Trump tariffs are two groups of people. You have the people who are just like, yeah, Trump says it, so it must be good. Those
Mhm.
are just like your simple blue collar Trump fans that are just far too busy in their lives to actually like
Who the
look
tariffs
into it.
probably won't affect much.
They either won't affect them, or well, the tariffs might affect them, but the thing that's not going to affect them is the massive stock market dip that's taken place, because
Mhm.
guys like you and me, we don't play around in stocks to the point where it's
I'm
like,
already working till I'm 70. Fuck it,
yeah,
whatever.
so it's like When you talk to some blue collar lineman or a machinist or just some guy that's like basically living paycheck to paycheck. Oh, did you see the stock market? Stock market went down. Like all these people are losing their ass. It's like I'm not.
Oh no. Anyways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I got my 401k or something wrapped up in the stock market, but I mean, truth be told, I'm either going to be dead or something's going to happen long before I can take advantage of that. Is my
Right.
what I've basically consigned myself to. So that's the first group is people that either are too busy to care or just don't understand it and don't really want to understand it. They're just like, yeah, Trump says it's okay, so it must be good. And then the other group of people are like these econ hawks that have just really dissected everything that's gone on since the end of the Second World War and the institution of the Bretton Woods system. And they're like, this point, and this point, and this point is where everything went to shit. And we need to basically wipe the slate clean, and we need a new way of doing things going forward. And then conversely, the group of people who are against the tariffs are again split into two camps. You've got the stage 4 terminal TDS sufferers that just whatever Trump does must be evil and rooted in white supremacy or some retarded shit like
Mm.
that. And then you've also got a group of people who are big time econ hawks
Your
that
upper income white people in Vermont who,
guys
who
like Rand Paul,
yeah.
though. Rand
Yeah, I
Paul is
suppose.
against the tariffs. When you're talking about the two groups of people who actually know what they're talking about as far as the economy goes, the people who are for the tariffs are wanting to burn the system down and start over from scratch the same way that we did in 1945 at the end of the Second World War. And the people who are against it are still of the mind that the free trade system that was instituted with Bretton Woods is still viable and is still going to be around and just needs some tweakings and some reforms. And unfortunately, if you are of the mind that the current system is going to be maintained, then yes, the tariffs make absolutely no sense at all, and it will only harm everybody, and it's only a trade war, and it's going to end up hurting everybody in the end. But if you're of the mind that the system is broken and it needs to be rebuilt from the ground up, then the tariffs are 100% the way to go. And the more that I'm looking into it, I'm like, there is going to be a lot of short term pain. But if they can stick with this and get everybody else in the world to come to heel, then we all stand to make a great deal of money and prosperity off of this. The problem comes with having the intestinal fortitude to stick with something that is going to hurt so many people so much in the short term of it. And also they say that the United States can institute a trade war and go to war with like one or two countries, but it can't go in a trade war against the entire world. And it's like,
Uh,
yeah, we can.
watch us.
Yes, we can. It's going to hurt having to go against the entire world, but it's something that we absolutely can accomplish. Because, like you've said several times, the strongest economy in Europe, which is the European economy is like the second strongest compared to ours, except for like China. But
Mm,
the strongest economy in Europe, which is Germany, is still weaker than our poorest state, Mississippi.
mm.
That is what a juggernaut our economy is. So fucking try me.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like our farmers, our main exports, are food and energy. I think cars are down there somewhere. Our farmers have been getting fucked by tariffs for a long time. So it's not like they're not used to it.
Hmm.
And the energy, once you start looking at that, it's so weird. We're sending energy out, we're bringing energy in.
Hmm.
Probably just use our own energy and we'll be fine.
Yep. The other thing that we export is culture, entertainment, intellectual property.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
gone down the toilet.
it's a non-tangible thing, but it does bring in a massive amount of money. Hollywood is universal all over the world,
Hmm.
even though it sucks. I mean,
And that's not really something you can tariff, though.
No, it's not.
So
So
I don't know what pain they think is going to get inflicted on us by other countries tariffing us out, but I guess we'll see.
yeah, you're
You
gonna
know,
skip. You're gonna miss out on some luxury goods.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm in.
Back to what I said. I mean, I looked over the last week of shit that I bought. There was maybe one or one purchase. It came out of China. It was an infrared lamp for when I get my methylene blue that shows up. Everything else is just fucking food, clothing, fuel, day to day shit, paying my bills.
Yeah, right. And our industrial base, a lot of these day-to-day things that you don't usually think about, like appliances and certain consumable goods and cheap items that come from China, yeah, they're going to get more expensive, especially as we have to ramp up our own industrial base. But having your industrial base located domestically, or at least in a more near peer country like Canada or Mexico, is going to, I mean, it's going to help them more, but it's also going to help us because your logistics lines are going to be vastly shortened.
Mhm.
I mean, can you imagine like let's say something like something stupid like plastic flatware, forks and spoons and stuff, manufactured in China. They manufacture them by the billions, but you still have to put them on a cargo ship and ship them across the Pacific Ocean to get here. Can you imagine setting up an injection molding plant in some place like Mexico?
Yeah.
What you're going to get the same product. It's going to take less time to get here. It's going to be of the same quality because you have quality control inspectors on this side of the border. They're going to make sure that everything is good to go. It's going to provide high paying jobs to the people of Mexico. So that's uh, X number of people that you don't have to worry about trying to jump the border. It just works out for everybody except China. And fuck those guys.
Well, another thing I thought of too is I think at some point, the robot AI revolution is going to take off. So if that happens when all the production is China and everything switches to robots, I mean, we're fucked. I mean, we missed out on uh, the selling point that having labor in China has is that it's so cheap. Well, when
Mm-hmm.
it's robots, it's even cheaper. So if China's left holding the bag of production when it switches over to robots, I mean, they're golden. They'll control all the production for the world. So if we get some of that production back here and built up by the time this robot AI revolution happens in 10, 20 years, great. you
Mm-hmm.
know maybe this time we could, last time we got left holding the bag on slavery and look like assholes. Maybe maybe this time we can be left holding the bag on production and get robot slaves in there where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's not even. I mean, that's one side of it. Like mass manufacturing that requires like a giant industrial base is one thing, but with certain advances in things like 3D printing or
Mhm.
home CNC machines, the opportunity to have small scale bespoke manufacturing of everyday goods is also now within the reach of an everyday hobbyist.
Yeah,
Um, I had
one
I
one guy watching 12 CNC machines. I mean, that's unrealistic in the past, but it can be now.
Yeah, exactly. Like when I was doing my draftsman's degree, the guy that was teaching the class on 3D modeling, uh, his teaching at the university was a side hustle. His main thing that he did was he designed and modeled 3D printed prosthetics. Not like the whole prosthetic, but like the cup section that like goes over the stump of the amputated limb.
Mhm.
His whole business was that he had a farm of 50 3D printers, and he said all he had to do in the morning was go in, plug a few numbers in, and it would print out throughout the day 50 prosthetic cups that were made to order and to size for whoever needed them anywhere in the world. And he's like, and eventually I'm going to make enough money and then I'm going to buy 50 more and I'll be able to do this 100 times a day. And then after that, I'll double it again and I'll be able to do it 200 times a day. And he's like, I have a warehouse in downtown Hastings that I plan on filling up with 3D printers and being able to do this whenever I need to and just make a living off of it. And that is the type of small scale, localized, to order bespoke manufacturing that is within reach of the everyday man today. All you need is the idea and the drive to put it into action.
Yep. And the ability to buy the machines. So we need to get some of the product. That's the problem is these factories. We don't even have the machinery to build a factory here. You know, all the every so much stuff is in China that even if we want to build a factory, we don't have the most basic shit to be able to build one. And that's dangerous.
Well, it's not only that, but we also have all of the bullshit environmental regulations that keep people from being able to build a large scale factory like they used to have back in the 40s and 50s.
Mm.
Like you cannot do things at that scale simply because the red tape involved is choking the life out of our manufacturing.
So yeah, we'll see how Trump plays it out. You know, if he's going to get scared at the midterms because I the Democrats' message though is so bad. I don't think they'll lose many seats at midterm. Like I brought up we can get into the protest thing here that I brought up.
Hmm.
You hadn't even heard they were doing it. That's how good a job they did at protesting. Um, they're calling it like the hands off protests. You know, hands off our government services and hands off deporting immigrants and taking away trans rights. They're still they're still doubling down on this shit that lost them the election.
Yeah. So what did you find out about it? Because I've seen one thing today. It was
Oh,
some.
go to your lefty media. It's all over the place. CNN.com and
Uh oh. So Ben blanked out again because he's going into trying to pull things up. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But yeah, I saw one thing about the hands-off protest. There was a bunch of people sitting around in Seattle protesting, and one guy held up a sign that said, "Hands off." Warhammer miniatures were already expensive before the tariffs. And,
a buck. Can
and
you? Yeah. So 1,200 protests across 50 states. They were saying. I mean, they had them in most of the larger cities here in Nebraska. Even there was one here that 20 people showed up for. They're just holding signs saying, you know, typical. Uh, our country's not run by billionaires, stuff like
Mhm.
that. Um,
It's not run by billionaires; it's run by Jews.
yeah, yeah, and apparently, you know, billionaires are fine as long as it's their billionaires doing stuff.
Yeah.
They're just sticking to these messaging that lost them the presidential election, and you know, come midterms, it's not going to work out for them. I don't think, even if they're pissed off about the economy.
Yeah, it's so sad to see that people are still falling for the lines. Though there are people that actually believe that Elon Musk is the president and he's telling Trump what to do, and that all of this is new. Have you seen the clip from 1988 that's been floating around?
Mm-mm.
So there is a clip of Donald Trump on Oprah
Oh, yeah,
from
yeah.
1988 where he was talking about this very thing, about trade wars and trade deficits and tariffs and getting our so-called allies to stop digging into our ass. So this isn't something new that this guy's come up with. This is something that's been on his mind since at least 1988, probably before that. So to think that he, with all of the time that he's had to spend on it and the types of people that he surrounds with, doesn't have at least some general outline of how this is going to work, you're fooling yourself.
Yeah, it's not like he just woke up, you know, second or third week into his presidency and been like, hey, you know what? Tariffs sound fun.
Yeah. And the thing is, before the income tax, and specifically before the First World War, the United States was funded almost exclusively on tariffs. Another thing that the people who are the tariffs are a tax and they will only hurt the people in the country that is levying the tariffs. Well, if that's true, then why does every country in the world levy tariffs on us? That's the big question. If it only hurts the countries or the people of the country that is levying the tariffs, then France with their wine, Germany with their cars, Japan with the cars.
Canada tariffs the shit out of us for agricultural products, beef, dairy, chickens.
Yeah,
There's like a 200% tariff on chickens coming into Canada?
yeah, and dairy is like 240%.
Yeah.
And the reason that they do that is because Canadian milk is good, but they don't have it at the scale that we do, and they don't want to get flooded with cheap American milk that is going to put the Canadian dairy farmers out of business. That's what a tariff is for. Yes, it's nativist. Yes, it's protectionist. But you can almost guarantee that some place in the world is going to do something better than you can do it domestically, so that's what tariffs are for. It's to protect your people's industry.
But now we do it. Oh, we're the bad guy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the same people that sold us out to China back in the 80s and 90s are probably the same ones against the tariffs now.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I'm sure that if he was still alive, did Henry Kissinger die, or was it
God, I hope
Brzezinski?
so.
Yeah, one of those old codgers Brzezinski and Kissinger are probably the two most evil men to have ever taken any position of prominence within the U.S. government, and both of them were pretty much responsible for dragging China into the World Trade Organization and lowering any barriers for them to get their industrial revolution off of the ground.
Yeah, and I need to look into that. I don't understand. It seems so bizarre that they would want to boost China up that much. There has to be more to it than just money. I don't know what the conspiracy theories are. That's one of those things on my list of rabbit holes to dive down and figure out.
It's one of the older ones, but it goes back to like the Rockefellers and Brzezinski and Kissinger were talking about how the model of communist China, because they call themselves communists, but they're really more of a hybrid system.
Mm.
Certain capitalistic elements along with overriding state control. It's closer to fascism nowadays than it is to communism, but even that word doesn't really
Well, it is an ethno state.
that too. But yeah, what they've got going on over there, people like the Rockefellers and Brzezinski and Kissinger and members of our government, they took a look at the social model and they admired it. And they basically wanted to turn everybody in the world into uh, into bugmen, like they are over in China, more or less.
Yeah.
Americans in particular, but Westerners in general, have a don't tell me what to do streak a mile wide. And to people like Brzezinski and Kissinger, that is very inconvenient. And so they looked at the 2, 3, 4,000 years of Chinese culture that has kind of inculcated to almost a secular version of the divine right of kings in today's world, and they viewed that as very admirable because in their perfect world, they would be at the top of that pyramid. So they wanted to kind of recreate the Chinese model worldwide, and so that's why China was artificially boosted in the 70s, 80s, and 90s to get to where they are today.
Hmm.
And there
Yeah.
was
Well, I mean, China's got that history of kind of just falling in line.
mm-hmm.
I mean, for like you said, thousands of years.
Yeah, it's part of their culture, goes back way before the communist revolution. And when you take that into account, it's not a surprise that they gravitated towards communism because it really kind of meshed well with the culture of top-down authoritarianism that they already had going on over there. And I believe that the sort of overarching theme that they were going for was they were going to compartmentalize the world into various spheres of influence. Like China was going to be the manufacturing center of the world, and the United States was going to be kind of the militaristic enforcement arm that kept everything in line militarily, and Europe was going to be kind of like the cultural hub where all the high-minded intelligentsia and ideas would flow forth from, and places like Africa and Russia would be like resource extraction zones because they're all largely untapped. And that was kind of the idea that they were going to set up to kind of go forward. And surprisingly, it was Xi Jinping coming to power that kind of threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing, because he was like, no, China number one.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when that guy dies.
Yep.
I mean, China's, I don't know. I have no idea what will happen there. Same thing with Russia. But thinking back too, Russia kind of fell into that communism system well too, because, they had the top down mentality for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had the czars.
And all the Russians that were kind of rebellious kind of migrated off into Europe.
Mm-hmm.
You had that relief valve for the dissidents. So you were left with a population that would slot into that well. And Europe's just always been kind of rowdy, even though they had kings and whatnot.
It seems like the further west you went, the more individualistic you got.
Yeah.
Eventually culminating in the sort of Magna Carta mentality of England and the UK, which is the direct predecessor of what we've got going on in the US today.
And to get us back on track, though, I mean, that went way off in the weeds.
But it was a good talk. I like that. That's the sort of stuff that we got to like clip out into little pieces and like put on TikTok and shit.
Right. And do a dance with it.
Yeah.
The other thing, we might close out this show with this, but we'll see. There's been a new noticing.
Oh, yes.
Noticing. The GDP noticing.
Yeah. Per capita noticing.
Or the per capita noticing, I mean, yeah.
Yes. So, Ben, why don't you give us a quick rundown on what per capita means?
The amount of things taking place per, what are they using, 100,000?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And why is per capita so important when dealing with things like, say, just off the top of my head, crime statistics?
Because there's a definite trend that popped up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Even when you correct it for other things too, it pops up and people are starting to notice. And when it popped up, the funny thing was the people commenting on this trend were getting met with violence online.
I don't know. Should we keep dancing around it, or should we just out and out say exactly what's going on?
I mean, it's just mentioning a statistic.
I know, but I have it on good authority that statistics can be racist.
It is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So instead of pussyfooting around it here, so over the weekend, or not over the weekend, but during the week, a white kid was killed by a black kid at a high school track meet, and a lot of discourse, let's say, was brought up by people who were like seeing the disparities in violence. And we bring up the per capita because the phrase per capita has almost become a meme in and of itself. You get onto these social media sites and you see people bring up per capita, or rather you see people not bring up per capita. They'll say like, oh, well, there's more murders in the United States committed by white people than black people. And you say, and then you have somebody check the per capita. And then that's when everybody freaks the fuck out, because the per capita number is the important number. Yes, there are more murders committed by white people in America because America is 63% white and only 12 or 13% black. But when you factor in the per capita, things go wildly disproportionate in one direction. And you have to preface this. This does not mean that black people are inferior to white people in any way, shape, or form. There are a number of mitigating circumstances that will and can be used to sort of skew the numbers
Yeah, like maybe
one
the
way or the other.
fact that all the white Karens got rid of the police in their neighborhoods, maybe that might have some effect on it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you go soft on crime, crime gets hard on you. And the abolish the police was largely a white female led phenomenon.
Yeah, I saw in
Unfortunately.
Seattle, they have almost a complete turnover of their city council. I wish I had the clip of the guy. I should have thought of it. But he's black, and he was calling out the previous white administration for getting rid of all the cops in the black neighborhoods. You know, and
Yeah.
they're trying to fix it, but it's so bad. I mean, why would you want to come into this situation as a cop now?
There's really no reason to, because cops are so hated.
Yeah, he's like, it's not. He said it's not even a budget issue. We can afford more cops. Cops do not want to work here, is what he said.
And I don't blame them either. You know,
Yeah,
and there's the other it's more of a cultural issue. And I said something about this in our group chat that there's in the United States, you have several minority groups, whether it be an ethnic minority or a sexual minority or a religious minority. And it seems that the culture in the United States is that if you are a member of one of these minority groups, an attack on one is an attack on all. And if a white guy molests a child and you bring that up, it's like white man molests child, other white people will be the first one to say, throw that motherfucker into a
get
wood
out the
chipper.
chipper.
Yes, throw that motherfucker into a wood chipper. No punishment is harsh enough to deal with that. If a transgender person or a drag queen or something is caught molesting a child and it's drag performer caught molesting child, the alphabet people community will circle the wagons around that individual because an attack on that person is seen as an attack on them. Same thing goes for if a white guy murders somebody, other white people will unhesitatingly, yes, throw him in prison, life sentence or the death penalty, no problem. Black guy kills somebody in the streets in cold blood, circle the wagons around him. And it goes for every single minority group except for white people in this country. And that's something that's not inherent to white people. It's because we are the majority, so that and this is where things kind of fall off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what is it like? Are we not culturally allowed to have in-group preferences? No, not really. But what is it about the other groups that it's not only that they're allowed to have an in-group preference, they are expected to circle the wagons around their scumbags. Because why? I
Yeah,
don't get it. George Floyd was a scumbag. Trayvon Martin was a scumbag. Michael Brown was a scumbag. The guys, I forget what his name was. I think it was like Hugo Garcia in Austin, Texas, a drag performer who had several child molestation charges. He changed his name and got away with doing drag queen story time on several occasions until people found out who he was. Absolute scumbag. You know, it's like, so if you the point that I'm trying to get across is that if these communities want to dismantle bigotry, hatred, racism, anti-Semitism, whatever it is, the solution is to be the first to call out your scumbags. You know, if you're a gay man and somebody within your community is doing something that they shouldn't do, your first thing is like, no, that guy doesn't represent me. Give me the rope. I will string him up myself.
mm-hmm.
Same thing if you're black and a black guy goes on a shooting spree and kills like, some innocent kids or something. Your first recourse should be, no, I will help you put this man to justice.
Well, their community, the black communities have been so completely broken now. What options are they going to have at this point to get back under control?
They need to police their own.
I mean, they're going to have to start. I saw there is a group that does that. It's like a black vigilante police force. I forget what city it was in. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that? They like protect the. They like do patrols. They go around the gas stations. They're open carrying.
I think I was in Baltimore.
Probably it makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they're gonna have to do something like that because they've removed all the cops from their communities, and it's just free for alls.
It's basically, yeah, you basically need private security or like a neighborhood watch or something like that. You're not necessarily being like a hyper violent vigilante, but just like having the citizens arrest authority and taking care of your community. When I say police your own, that doesn't necessarily mean you got to like kick down the doors at 3 o'clock in the morning and start hemming people up, but it just means like be a more active and involved member of your community. And when I say your community, I don't mean like all black people or all Jews or all gay people. Gay people, that sense of community. I mean like literally your community, the people within like a 5-block radius of you. You have to police your own community.
Well, and I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, and say there's nothing genetic there, and maybe their communities had these violence issues because of underlying social things. But then when the white Karens noticed, they like to say these statistics don't matter, but the statistics they saw that were showing that, a disproportionate number of black people were getting arrested, disproportionate amount of crime in black areas. Their answer was, oh, well, it must be because the cops are bad. Let's just get rid of the cops out there. Instead of looking at the underlying social issue, that was their fix for it. And now they're just completely fucked. I mean, I don't even know how you fix their communities at this point because, like that guy in Seattle was saying, they need more cops. Who wants to go into a war zone? They lost all their veteran cops. Who wants to be a rookie cop and go into the war zone of the Bronx or the Chaz in Seattle or Baltimore?
The biggest issue that keeps those community or is going to keep those communities where they're at is optics. You could trickle in a few cops here and there, train them to a higher standard, do expensive and long lasting, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, community outreach programs, all of that stuff that might fix the problem 10, 15, 20 years down the line. But there's no guarantee that stuff will work. Or you could take the Nayib Bukele approach.
Mm-hmm.
You could go in there with SWAT teams, crack skulls, fuck everybody up. It's going to look terrible. People are going to call you a fascist. But once you root the scumbags out of the community and make it safe for the normal, social, law-abiding people, they can open up their corner stores. They can do
Which will never happen. I mean, because all these cities are in blue control. I look at the large cities in red controlled areas. I mean, you got Omaha here in Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't seem to be having those issues. Kansas City got on the borderline, but it seems like they never had that bad an issue. I can't think of any. Most of the cities in Texas seem to be fine. I mean, Houston's got a huge black population, but you don't hear about them having these type of issues.
Carl Benjamin from the UK, he came over last week to Austin, Texas, and we often hear from people who live in Austin how bad Austin has got as far as like crime and the culture and everything. But he's coming from a moderately sized city in the UK, and he said that Austin was one of the best and most beautiful places he's visited in a long time. So, everything's relative, but yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna have to have one of these blue governors. I could see Eric Adams doing it if he gets elected again, just cracking skulls and getting them back under control. And he'd be the guy to do it. I mean, he's black. He comes from a police background. He told the Democrat Party to fuck off, but I don't think he's got a chance now. Yeah,
he left the
I mean,
Democratic Party.
he could clean it up, I think, but you're gonna have to get somebody in these blue cities to clean them up. And they just, like you said, the optics. There's no way they'll do it.
No.
So now they're just in a downward spiral. Businesses are going to leave. You know, I've said before, you know, it seems weird that the KKK kind of went away. This seems so perfectly crafted to ruin a black community.
Yeah, it does. It's like the government, in their well-intentioned interference, has done more to damage the black community than the Klan ever would have dreamed of.
They could never have pulled off a scheme this good to ruin black communities, and here we are for who knows how long, decades at this point, I guess.
Lyndon Johnson, son of a bitch.
At some point, black people are just going to start leaving. And why, if you could afford to get out, why would you stick around in an area like this if you're black at this point?
There's really no reason to.
I mean, where I live here in Nebraska, I mean, we've had some black people are moving this way from, you know, areas that are like that. I've ran into a couple from Chicago, you know, just wanted to get out and make a better life. So they just packed up their shit and left.
Got out to farm country.
Yeah. Where it wasn't as racist as they were led to believe. They're doing just fine.
Yeah, shock.
It's not a bunch of racist white people out here like the left led them to believe, or they wanted to keep in their plantation in the cities.
Yep. They just went from chains of iron to chains of debt, essentially.
Yep.
But chains are chains, man.
Living off, I mean, there's no stores in there anymore. They're living off overpriced gas station food in these cities. There's no Walmarts to go get food at, no grocery stores. I mean, it's like they're turning to like third world countries at this point. Reservations for black people is what the inner cities are becoming.
Yep.
Just a vote farm.
Just a vote farm.
Oh, really, that downer.
Yeah. Oh shit. Is there anything good to talk about?
This week in memes was goblin porn for us. I mean, you want to get it?
It's called hentai and it's art, Dad.
Talk about your discovery you ran into on Amazon about this. I thought it was a joke.
Oh yeah, it's well, you know, in our group chat we got Rick, who, you know, every time they play, you know, those guys over there, they play D&D with each other, and they've got their running gag of the goblin prostitute,
the goblussy.
Yeah, and then I was listening to a podcast where the girl was talking about how one of the leading genres in men's fiction on Amazon was fantasy erotica. And she's like, all of the covers of these books are like AI generated pictures of like sexy elves and dragons and whatever. And so then I just kind of put the two and two together and decided to put goblin erotica into the search bar on Amazon. And holy shit, was that a rabbit hole? There's a lot more of that than I thought that there should be.
Yeah, we're starting a side project. We're going to make bougie. I told Hobbs we need to build bougie plate carriers and write goblin porn. Maybe combine the two and just get plate carriers with goblin sluts all over it.
Goblin hentai camouflage.
I wonder what.
I mean, they're already green.
I mean, if that's your thing, great. I don't get it. I wonder what audience is this like. Kind of a progressive thing where they don't want to dehumanize women in their porn, so it's goblins and elves.
I have not read any of these, and to truth be told, I'm not brave enough to try. So I do not know what the underlying thought process is. behind some of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, written erotica wouldn't be my thing, anyways. I'm guessing that might be your beta male sort of thing. So the goblins and elves are not actual women, so it allows their psyche to enjoy themselves because they're not demeaning actual women.
It's no cognitive dissonance.
But it's not so shunned as a furry porn. So they've kind of found a middle ground, I think.
Yes. Furry erotica is still haram. It will not be allowed. But yeah, the goblin erotica. There's page after page after page of the goblin
Which
erotica.
made me a little suspicious of Ed Black because he had the comic series a little bit ago about the goblins, and I was like, has he got a pen name on here?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that he could probably make a large sum of money by just kind of leaning into it.
Expanding that series just on full on hentai. But
It's a possibility. Get on it, Ed.
get on it, Ed, if you see this. But I don't have anything else I want to talk about. We're up on an hour. That seems like a good one to go out on. Unless you got something.
Truth be told, I didn't even really want to talk about that. But we did. So, yeah, I'm still in talks with Stuff and Things. We're still getting, trying to set up a date. They had three products launch recently, and they went to Clash Bash, Texas. I think it was this week, and showed off a lot of their stuff. So we'll see if we can get them on in the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, and we'll be back next week, I believe. I don't have anything coming up next week, so we'll be back next week, same day and time. And thanks everybody for joining us. Check out our merch on roads2liberty.com, the alexjonestore.com/R2L, and R2L pod. Why can't I ever remember that? What is?
It's just R2L pod on Twitter.
R2L pod on Twitter to follow us on Twitter. And we'll see you next week, and stay honky. Watch out for goblins.